Hi, this is Matt Forrest Essenwine. I am a children's writer. I've written a number of picture books and I do a lot of poetry. I don't call myself a poet, although a lot of people do because you write poetry, you're a poet. Although I don't really like calling myself that. I'll call other people that. I'll let that term be reserved for folks who have more gravitas than I. But this is the first of what I hope will be many, but not too many, videos on poetry, specifically geared to kids, and teaching you a little bit about how poetry is written, and the fact that it's a lot of fun. People hear poetry and they think it's hard to get into, and it's either it's just for kids, or like the poetry for adults is just too obtuse and hard to understand, and it's really not. It's a lot of fun to write. That's why I like poetry. You can tell a lot. You can tell a story or describe a scene in a tight, compact little space, and I love that. It's almost like a word problem for me, trying to figure out things like meter and assonance and consonants, which are fancy words for internal rhyme, not the rhyme at the end of the line, but rhymes that kind of happen in between the lines. And there's all kinds of things you can do with poetry, and doesn't have to rhyme, doesn't have to have meter or rhythm or anything like that. So we'll talk about that as we go through these videos. The first one I'm sharing, and again, these are geared to kids, because if you're a kid, I want you to be able to enjoy not only reading poetry, but be able to write it and kind of get something out of it. So the first thing we're going to do, the first video, is a poem that I had. There we are, in this book. And yes, I am inside my pillow fort. If you're wondering, it's a pillow fort I set up just for you. 1 Minute Till Bedtime, which came out back in 2016 from Little Brown Books for Young Readers. This was compiled by former U.S. Children's Poet Laureate Ken Nesbitt, illustrations by Christopher Neiman, and I had a poem in there called 1 Minute. The poem was called A Visit to the Forest. And so today we're going to work on alliteration. Alliteration is a fancy word for the sounds at the beginning of the words that are repetitive, like Big Billy Bunny's books. That's alliteration. The B sound, that first consonant sound of the word being repeated, is called alliteration. So we have a lot of alliteration in this poem. It's called A Visit to the Forest. Little squirrel climbs a tree, stops to chew and chatter. Cousin chipmunk runs away, his feet go pitter-patter. Bees are buzzing, flitting over boysenberry flowers. Garter snake goes sneaking under tiny toadstool towers. Ants are marching over pebbles, working with no worries. Sparrow sings and blue jay squawks, a tiny rabbit scurries. Watching all this hustle-bustle nearly makes me dizzy. I heard this was a pretty place, but never knew how busy. So again, if we are going to talk about alliteration, it's simply the beginning sound of the words, and when you combine them together in using several words together, you get alliteration, like little squirrel stops, chew, chatter, that beginning sound. Cousin chipmunk, we get the chew and chatter, and then we get the chipmunk. Pitter patter. Bees are buzzing. Boysenberry. Flitting over flowers. The snake is sneaking. Tiny toadstool towers. I just love that particular line. I love the fact that toadstools are so tiny, but I'm describing them as towers, which we think are so huge. And again, that's comparing and contrasting. That's another thing we'll talk about poetry in an upcoming video. Working with no worries, the W sound. Sparrow sings, squawks and scurries. This is all alliteration. Pretty place. So I'm not saying you need to load up a poem with that sort of thing, but sprinkling in alliteration like a light sprinkle of salt really can help bring a poem alive. And we've got a lot of other poetic devices in this poem as well, which we're not going to get into right now, but things like internal rhyme, as I mentioned earlier, assonance, consonants, comparing and contrasting. So we'll talk about these things in upcoming videos, but I want to keep these short. I only want to keep them to about 5 minutes or so, and I'm already past my 5-minute time, so I'm going to say so long. Thank you for watching. If you like the video and you appreciate these, feel free to click like, follow me on YouTube. I've got a blog, Matt Forrest, two T's, two R's, mattforrest.wordpress.com. You can find me at mattforrest.com, my regular website, and I will see you here for the next time. Hope you enjoyed the poem, and I'll be back. So, be ready.